Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, this 60-minute session in which we look at systematic literature searching in MEDLINE on EBSCOhost. Notice I've dropped the new aspect because it's now live. So the new EBSCO is now the EBSCOhost. And in this session, we'll look at developing a complex search strategy incorporating wildcards, proximity or precision search operators to run free text and mesh or subject searches on MEDLINE or in MEDLINE, and also apply filters where appropriate. So we may also touch on the matter of saving and rewriting. Well, we will touch on the matter of saving and rewriting searches and look at additional options, time permitting. So I know probably most of you have met me before, attended one of my webinars, but for those who haven't, I'm Richard Crooks. I'm a senior customer training specialist with EBSCO. So I typically support library services in the UK, Ireland, and Nordics. Occasionally do end user training as well. So originally a chartered librarian, having previously spent time in the NHS. So welcome to the session today. In terms of what we're going to cover then, objectives-wise, I hope that within this hour, you'll be able to plan an appropriate search strategy using the PICO or PICO framework. I'll say more about that as we go through the session. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with PICO or clinical frameworks in creating a strategy, but we'll see how this applies on the EBSCO interface. You'll be able to perform simultaneous title and abstract searches on this platform. Also use the mesh terms, the medical subheadings for authoritative search results. So we are obviously focused on MEDLINE today, and also combine the keyword or free text terms with the subject terms, the mesh terms, using the search history in this database. And also, more recently, save and rerun searches using the save search set. So I'll introduce you to that in the slide deck, and then we'll look at that live as we go through this webinar. And also, you'll be able to find further training resources in support of systematic searching, some more in-depth advanced searching as needed. So I'm sure most of you are probably well versed in this kind of searching. Some may be quite new to it. Maybe you're onboarding where you are. Maybe you're taking another step, as it were. But we'll go through the processes here initially. So to begin, some initial considerations in the context of searching the literature using an EBSCO database like MEDLINE. First of all, why am I searching? What is the purpose? It's in support for what? It could be in support of an assignment for a clinician. It could be a research paper. It could be a systematic review, for example. And what am I searching? The kind of content, the kind of coverage as well. Is it more biomedical related? Is it nursing allied health? Of course, we can be somewhat biased because we look at MEDLINE today. And then how are we searching? Which resources? What limitations? Again, which database would you gravitate to initially? And of course, in a lot of cases, you'll be searching both MEDLINE and CINEL, or MEDLINE, CINEL, and other databases like APA, PsycInfo, if it's more psychiatry related as well. So just some initial considerations. And on top of that, we have to consider the type of search we're going to conduct. And I've kind of indicated that already. It could be a simple lookup to identify one or a small number of research articles that meet a narrow set of criteria. So it could be in relation to retrieval of specific facts. It could be related to incidence or prevalence of diseases, for example, or it could be in response to a specific research question. It could be exploratory. It may be the user or yourself want to learn about a concept or body of research that includes its characteristics, the terms used, the amount of evidence that's out there, the type of research conducted, etc. So it could be really a general scoping search. And ultimately, it could be a systematic search, and this is where we're going to focus on today, really, where you're seeking, or the user is seeking, to identify all records on a specific topic through an unbiased, transparent, and reproducible search. So that's where we're going to focus on essentially in this session. So with that in view, we have to consider how we approach the search itself. Now, in this context, we're looking at a particular research question. It could be based on a scenario. I know in the past in the NHS I worked for panels, and we had to provide evidence in relation to a particular patient condition and the affordability of supporting treatment. So that's a particular scenario, and that lends itself to a research question, as it were. There's also the consideration as to what framework you use. I mentioned PICO, this is where we're going to focus, but there's other ones like COCOPOP, SPICE, Eclipse, PIO, and so on, all sorts of acronyms that relate to frameworks which are intended to be able to structure your search to ensure that you find what's out there in relation to a particular field or subject area. And therefore, with that in view, we have to devise an appropriate search strategy to search. That means we are going to be considering what terms to use. So synonyms, related terms for each concept that we're looking at, searching for each concept one at a time, so performing title or abstract searches. Some will opt for unqualified searches, mesh terms, the subject headings, and then also factoring other elements that could enhance the likelihood of finding that evidence, and that means use of wildcards, so truncation, for example, proximity operators, and for EBSCOhost, of course, we use near and within operators. You may be familiar with ADJ, of course, and then combining those concepts using Boolean operators and or etc. Okay, so it is obviously systematic, it is quite methodical, and I'm sure most of you are very familiar with that approach. I know sometimes it may still come as a shock to users. It can seem a bit tedious, but obviously if we're going to search the literature systematically, then we need to be pretty precise in what we're doing. So the question we have here, apologies for those who've seen this before, maybe you've come on here as a refresher. I promise I will change this question at some point in the near future, once I've got time to consider other more seasonal, if you like, topics. But we've got this one here. For patients 65 years and older, how does the use of an influenza vaccine compared to not receiving a vaccine influence the risk of developing pneumonia during flu season? Okay, so we could probably drop the flu season aspect perhaps here, but I've highlighted those elements there that are particularly relevant to this search. Obviously, we're looking at a particular patient group. Doesn't specify gender, but certainly age group, those under 65. So those under 65 need not apply in this scenario, as it were. Then we've got influenza vaccines. So these are those who are going to be vulnerable to flu, as it were, compared to not receiving the vaccine. And then the risk, with the concern being the risk of developing pneumonia during a particular time of the year, if you like. But again, I'm sure a number of you may have had flu in the past, in the summer months. Obviously, we've got an unseasonably hot summer, or maybe it's more consistent these days, but unfortunately people can still come down with various conditions, etc. during this time of the year. It could even be flu. So we're looking at this condition anyway with this in this relation to this topic in this question. So we are going to use a framework to create a search based on this research question. And as I mentioned, there are numerous frameworks out there. Some of you may have seen this before, but it's well worth looking at. This is a paper by Andrew Booth et al. So Andrew Booth, based at Shire in Sheffield, the School for the Centre of Health and Related Research. And they have identified 38 variants of frameworks that could be used to search the literature, obviously in a systematic fashion, in relation to given topics, research questions, scenarios, and so on. So we've got a listing of some of those highlighted. So Cocoa Pop, condition, context, population. That may be something you might need to use in particular in relation to a particular topic. There's Eclipse there. There's PICO, which focuses on exposure as opposed to intervention, which is where you'll find PICO, or PICOT, which also has the time element, which could be the time frame. So flu season you could say is the time frame in the question that we have, or it could be a type of study as well. So it could be a randomized controlled trial, for example, statistical review, or simply a clinical trial. And SPICE is there as also SPIDER as well. So again, there are more than that, of course. I've only shown a handful here in this slide. There's 38 listed, detailed in the paper there, for which you can see the link there and access that. So you'll have a copy of the slide deck, so you can access that in your own time if you've not seen that before or checked it before. So as I mentioned, we are using PICO or PICOT, so a variation of PICOT. So we've got the 5 elements there, and I've identified the concepts that we need to search for in terms of searching systematically on MEDLINE. So we've got the population group, patient group, you might say. These are older people, so they're age 65 plus. Intervention, of course, is the flu vaccine, influenza vaccine. There's no comparison, as it were, directly. It's either they have that or not. The outcome, of course, is the risk of developing pneumonia, and we are looking at flu season. Okay, so I've actually identified, obviously, concepts related to 3 of those columns. So population, intervention, and outcome. So this is where we're going to focus. And typically with PICO, population, intervention are the primary areas you focus on. Now, if it's PICO, for example, that means you're looking at exposure, which could be allergies, for example, as opposed to the intervention, which here, of course, is the flu vaccine. So we've got the population, so aged, elderly, older person, older people, so synonyms we could be using to identify the age group when we're running keyword or free text searches. Then we have the intervention, so influenza vaccine, I just mentioned flu vaccine, or it could be flu vaccination and so on. We're not going to search for the comparison. Outcome, pneumonia or pneumonitis or pulmonary inflammation and so on. And then the third row, as you might guess, are in uppercase, are the mesh terms. So we have to identify what the equivalent mesh terms would be to combine the free text searching with the mesh searching. Obviously, with mesh searching, you are identifying content that's already indexed. They've been assigned headings like aged, influenza vaccines, etc. But if we have in-process records, process that are not fully indexed in MEDLINE, then we need to really run on the keyword searching. Again, what terms do the authors, the researchers, the editorial team uses to write about this topic, as it were. So again, I always defer to a combination of searching keyword terms and the mesh terms. Whether you do it in one order or another, I know one university where they support system reviews, they'll start with the mesh terms, the subject headings first, identify those, and from those they would then identify the relevant keyword search terms. I'm going to do it in reverse. You can say I've always done it this way as a librarian and then working for EBSCO as a trainer as well. But again, there's no hard and fast rule as to how you approach it. I guess the main thing you can say is you report on how you're doing it, essentially. So again, there's a way now to identify the subject terms more simply. So some recent enhancements before we get into further into the demonstration and so on, and we will use the topic we've got, the question, to form the basis of the search strategy. So I'll run that live in MEDLINE shortly. You may have noticed if you've been online recently in the last 24 hours or more, you'll see the top navigation. In fact, last week that was launched about a week ago. So navigation is now moved to the top of the screen as opposed to the left-hand panel, which was on. That was mandated. There's no option for that. It is simply the way it is now, both for EBSCO's databases and for those who work in the NHS in England, the Knowledge and Library Hub. So if you have EBSCO Discovery Service, the navigation has also changed as well. And in addition to that, the dashboard, which also was featured in the navigation panel on the left-hand column, left-hand side of the screen, is now part of the My EBSCO research area. Now, if you have EBSCO single sign-on, which I know in the NHS they do in England, then you'll see your name generally mentioned on the top right as opposed to My EBSCO. So My EBSCO is the default label for that area, that personalized area where you would sign in so that you could store items beyond the session, you could set up alerts and so on, create project folders as well. So for those who have EBSCO single sign-on, whether you work in the NHS or another organization and you synchronize with Open Athens, when you sign into MEDLINE, for example, then My EBSCO will switch to your personal name, as it were, or how you're designated. In addition to that, the filter panel has also moved. Now, for those in NHS England, this has been already configured to display, as you see on the screenshot, but it is optional. So for those of you in academia, other sectors, you may still see the filters panel popping up from the right side of the screen when you click all filters. So again, that is a configuration option that you can manage in EBSCO Experience Manager. So again, by default now within NHS England, users, librarians, library staff will see the display as shown on this screen. So, and this is what we'll demonstrate today. But again, if you preferred the original model, if you like, where the filters appear on the right side of the screen, that can remain as it is. The top navigation, that's now applied to everyone, but the filters panel can be moved. So you can see it highlighted there. Okay, so it can be opened by default. Okay, so that's just a few things. There's more to come. I'll show that in a moment. But in terms of the actual search experience, then when we're looking at title abstract searching, which we'll do in this session, then simply we need to enter our keywords in the top search box, select title abstract or XB from the drop-down menu or field codes, and then run the search, the simultaneous search across both fields. So whether the terms appear in the title or abstract, records will be retrieved. Of course, they may appear in both fields as well. So it is possible to use the command line query in MEDLINE on EBSCOhost. So if you use the same field code XB with the associated search terms, you could run the same search. Now, one thing to add here, XB will be applicable to MEDLINE and also CINAHL if you search it separately. If you cross-search them, so if you select both databases, XB will not be available. So you then need to default to the title or TI abstract AB fields and enter your terms in the top search box, followed by the next one as well. Okay, so that was the original way of searching for title abstract, and you can still do that, but you would do that primarily if you're cross-searching. But individually, searching individual database like Medline, you can use the XP fill code. Now, we also incorporated more recently, you can go to browse the mesh index, the mesh terms through the tab within the landing page. That is the default landing page if you're using the advanced search screen, and that will then enter, you can then enter your term. That in turn will map you to the appropriate index term, and when you select that, you can open it up, see the scope node, and select and add it to the search. So essentially then go to the Medline tab, enter your keyword search to identify what is the preferred subject term, and it might be one and the same, it might be slightly different. So flu vaccine is actually rendered influenza vaccine in the index for Medline, and then you can select from there. Okay, so that's one way of using it. Probably more simply is now the use of the suggest subject terms. So again, this is a good way to identify relevant subject headings. So again, using the same example, flu vaccine, enter that in the top search box, and then you will select the suggest subject terms option, which is now below the third box, as it were, as shown here on screen. That in turn changes the search button to suggest terms. When you click suggest terms, it will direct you to the thesaurus, and from there you can select the appropriate index term, which again is influenza vaccines, and then you can add that to the search. Okay, so again, you just need to enter your keyword search in the top search box, select suggest subject terms, click suggest terms, and it will take you to the index, and you can select the preferred subject heading from there. Okay, so that may be a preferred way of using the mesh terms as opposed to the way I showed you in the previous slide. Now, moving on to wildcards on the EBSCOhost interface. Again, this has not changed, so although you've switched now to the new platform, the syntax is still the same as it was with the classic interface. So we have the truncation represented by the asterisk, the star symbol, and that means you can search for keywords, multiple terms, multiple expressions of the same term by truncating them. So if you want to search for physiology is a physiological, then you could simply place this asterisk after the L and find all three variations. You can also, place the asterisk between terms as well. So if you want to look for ventilator and pneumonia, ventilator acquired pneumonia, and ventilator associated pneumonia, just simply put ventilator asterisk pneumonia in the search box, and you can run a search for all three of those phrases, as it's where those, how the condition is rendered differently. To perform an exact phrase search, we do stress the use of double quotation marks. So influenza vaccine with double quotation marks will find at least one occurrence of that exact phrase. Now, within the EBSCO platform, when terms are searched, they are also identified individually. So you'll see influenza in bold, you'll see vaccine in bold, but you should at least have one occurrence of a record within a record where that phrase is mentioned, where the words are next to each other in that order. Okay. There is also the use of the question mark wildcard. So that is basically a single or unknown character replacement. So essentially what it means is you can replace the S or the Z in organization, find both variations. Likewise, if you use woman or women, you can place the vowels there, A and E. And another example would be analysis or analyses. If you replace the I or the E there with the question mark, you'll find both variations. For alternate spelling, you must use would use the hash wildcard, which my US colleagues refer to as the pound sign. So don't be confused by that in the context of searching. That means if you put hash before P, or after P before E in pediatrics, you'll find the US and UK spelling. And for color, for behavior, etc., if you put the hash wildcard after the O before the R, you'll find alternate spelling there. Of course, you can combine them. So you see an example there where the hash wildcard within pediatrics is combined with the asterisk. So you would find pediatric, pediatricians, pediatrician, etc. And then finally, you can still search for words exactly one character at the end of a word. So if you're looking at monkey or monkeys, not monkey, to use this example, then you would put monkey hash question mark, and it will find monkeys, not monkey. So you can think of other variations how you might want to use that particular example. Okay, so we do have more information on the use of these within the EBSCO Connect portal as well. And then just moving on, prior to the demonstration, just to remind you then about the precision or proximity search operators that we have here. Again, some of you may be very familiar now with these. You've been on other sessions, attend other trainings, you've watched tutorials, etc. But just a reminder, and also for those who may be watching later, who may not be so informed about, particularly if they've not been searching MEDLINE EBSCOhost regularly, then we have the near and within operators. They do what they say. So N2, for example, between gallbladder and dysfunction or dysfunctional, I've truncated dysfunction there to also include dysfunctional. So that means you could be looking for gallbladder dysfunction or dysfunctional gallbladder. So N means the words are near each other, so they're in any order, but 2 would indicate 2 words or less. Okay, that's the word range. So it is literal. And then changing that to W2, then you'll be looking only at gallbladder within 2 words or less of dysfunction. Okay, so it wouldn't be dysfunction, 2 words of gallbladder. So again, near, regardless of the order, so in any order, within is in the order you enter them. And then multiple terms can be used on either side of the operator. So if you're considering looking at heart attack and statins, as well as myocardial infarction and statins, then in parentheses, you can have heart attack or myocardial infarction and for statins. So it could be those terms before statins or statins mentioned, within 4 words less of heart attack or myocardial infarction, etc. Okay, so just some examples there of how you might use these elements. So just some further enhancements there, which I'm sure you'll be pleased to see. We also launched the Save Search Sets feature, which means that you can now or will be able to save up to 200 search sets, that is lines, in your search history from the new platform. So the entire search history is then accessible in the EBSCO Save folder, and that means it can be rerun. So you can see here in this example, we've got the Save Search link there above the search history, which means however many lines you have, up to 200, they will be saved intact in the Save folder within EBSCO, and then you can rerun that. So it does require you to be signed in to do this, okay, to be stored beyond the session as well. So that means you can rerun your search in the order or the sequence that you saved it in, as it were. And furthermore, just to show you one more thing before we move on to the demonstration, we also have enhanced the bulk elements, the bulk toolbar in particular, now the ability to select up to 500 records at one time from the results page. That means you can save up to 500 records, you can add them to the project, you can download up to 500, you can also email or share site up to 500 as well. So that feature, by the way, does require you to be signed into a EBSCO personal user account. You may wonder, why is that? And that's because EBSCO must protect licensed content from misuse and comply with publisher agreements. And also it means that we can monitor unusual activity and prevent large-scale harvesting of data, etc. Okay, so for those who work in NHS England, I know we have some NHS librarians on this session this afternoon. It won't be a cause for concern for you because you have EBSCO single sign-on, which means that when you authenticate with Open Athens, you'll be signed into your folder, so you will see the option to multi-select up to 500 records. If you do not have EBSCO single sign-on, all it means is you need to yourself and your users will need to sign in to EBSCO. That means you'll need to create an account for that if you don't already have one. So now, while you can still only view 50 records per page, you can actually save a set of up to 500 records and also download that quantity and email them, etc. So we'll see that as we go through the live session. Okay, so quite a lot to take in there, I know. So that's background information, which you've heard before. Obviously, there's a few things that have changed recently in the last week or so. So I just wanted to introduce you to that before we see this live. So those features, those elements I just touched on are live now. So let me now share my screen. Now we're looking at this, obviously, patient group. So what I'm going to do here, in the past, I've used the filter. Now the filter is very good. And if I scroll down on this page, you can see age related. Sorry, here I've got the age groups here, and that includes, sorry, let me just jump around here. It includes age 65 plus. Okay, now this is based on the indexing, so the mesh term assigned to an article which would relate to that patient group. So that's all well and good for something authoritative. However, if that content is still in process, it's not fully indexed with the mesh headings, then you would miss that item. So I'm going to opt for searching for the age group and not use the filter this time. So again, just to highlight some of the changes here with this platform, we no longer have this panel on the left, the navigation panel. That's moved to the top of the screen. So new search will take you back to this page or whatever is your default landing page when a user comes to it. So if you're in another page, you look at the result list and click new search, it will take you to your default landing page, which probably in most cases will be this advanced search page. The browse by feature provides a link to the publications indexed in MEDLINE, and then MEDLINE subheadings, the source is also available here. So I click on publications, for example, it opens up the publication tab and you can search for a publication. So British Medical Journal, for example, BMJ, you can use the alpha menu or go through the list. And then likewise, if I select MEDLINE, it will take me to the tab and I can browse the mesh terms, use the search box, etc. Research tools just directs you to currently EBSCO Connect. Now, you will be able to add additional links in time. Currently, there is a feature within EBSCO Experience Manager which allows you to add up to additionally up to 4 links. That is going to increase to 10. So I don't have any other links saved there currently, only EBSCO Connect there. It's under Research Tools, but this takes you to the Quick Start Guide. So again, this is customizable. The navigation will remain the same, but you have the option to add additional links besides EBSCO Connect there as well. Additionally, if I just click New Search to get the screen there, we have also the little globe icon there. So this is for the language of the interface. So if you have staff, students, etc., who are new to the UK, for example, where English is not their first language, then you can view it in a preferred language here. So this only changes the interface language, not obviously the content that you're retrieving. So you've got Polish there, Finnish, so on. So again, you can translate the language into any one of these as needed. Then we have the My EBSCO area, which I mentioned. So I'm not signed in currently. So you can see here, I've got this greeting. I've got my projects folder, save folder, recent activity, which will track my searching and also any viewed records, the alerts feature, which is the general alerts and the search alerts where you create them. But for those, you do need to be signed into My EBSCO. So if you don't have an account already, you can simply go in here and create that account using the online form, which I'm sure many of you have seen before. So again, as a user, then you would add your first name, last name optional, email address, create the password, noting the criteria, and then agree to the consent form, and you can create the account, and then you can sign in from there. Okay, so I will sign in at this stage because I'll see there's a number of things I want to do that I need to be signed in for. So I'll just do that now. Hopefully my VPN is still connected, which looks like it is. So it now says Richards, that's personalized, of course. So again, I can now, I'll be able to save items to projects, and also I'll be able to export items from here as well. That's another thing you need to be signed into, export records, and also to multi-select the 500, which I mentioned. So that's just a brief recap. One more thing to show you, the suggested terms is here, by the way, now below the third search box, and there's a little button there, a little note there to explain to users what this does. And I know we've already had some feedback on subject terms authority file, not necessarily user-friendly or intuitive to an end user. Obviously for librarians, essentially know what this means. But again, just a brief explanation of what that's doing. So what we'll do here is begin to go through the search. So I'll start off with the age group. As I mentioned, I do some keyword searching. So I'm going to explore aged, okay, and I'm using uppercase Boolean operators primarily because they're generally accepted. You can try it with lowercase, but unfortunately it will get, it does impact the search negatively because it may be treated as a stop word on occasion as well. So generally speaking, we advise using the uppercase Boolean operators. Okay, so I've got elder, that could be elderly there as well. And then you've got older people, okay, or old. Okay, so obviously, if I'm doing this for the first time, then as I've run different iterations, I may adjust this search. But we're going to go for these terms. And as I mentioned, we're going to go for the title search. So choosing the drop down, the appropriate field code, and click search here. So once I've done that, and that's load on screen, you'll see there is a little link now to the search history, and that's displaying below. Okay, so we have the set number, we have the search string, We have the search options, which are applied directly, which may be applied directly. These are on by default. So I've got proximity search and apply equivalent subjects, the expander. So since I'm using the field codes in searching, these will not impact that search. They're just there by default. If you run an unqualified keyword search, that is, you just leave all fields on, then this will impact how you're searching, okay? And these may have been adjusted for yourselves. I know, for example, phrase is used instead of proximity for the interface for the NHS in England. So again, that's something you may want to consider, and it's be reconfigured to search for terms next to each other, not within 4 or 5 words or less in any order. So again, there's some customization that can take place for the search modes, of which proximity is one of them. We have the results display there. We have this pancake icon, which gives you the database. So we're using MEDLINE. We have the save ribbon, which means you can save this string just by clicking save, and that will be stored in the save folder. So if I go to my folder here under saved, you'll see now the searches tab, and then you'll see that saved here. Now I've got other saved searches here, and they are visible because I've signed into my personal user account. Okay, so I've got that search there saved just from that one line, as it were. If I go back to the search history, also to point out, you have the kebab menu. So there's some food theme here, the pancakes and the kebab, or tools menu. You can edit the search details if you want to change that. So again, I can make adjustments, add that to the project. That's the custom folder, which I'll say more about. And then you can delete if you no longer need this search string, or if you want to redo it, as it were. But you can edit if you need to. So that's the first element. Now, obviously, we want to move on to the equivalent subject heading. So what I can do here, I can take a shortcut. So I can put in aged here. So I'm guessing that this could relate to the age group I'm looking for. So tick suggest subject terms, and notice the button is now changed. So if I click suggest terms, it will take me to the equivalent mesh term. So you can see here, I've got aged that I look for, and it's directing me towards this term in terms of relevance. So obviously age is what I'm looking for. I can click on that term. I can see it's for a person 65 years and older, so exactly what I need. I can select it. It's used for elderly, so if I was also browsing this thesaurus with elderly, it should also take me here too. You can see it's been used since 1966. Prior to that, we had geriatrics, as it were. Okay, and then you see the index terms as part of the adult age groups persons. So we've got this selected. So of course, it will include this one, age 80 and over as well, because we've got the explode option on. That can be defaulted to off by automatically, by the way. So it can be set to auto explode to include any narrow headings, but it can also be switched off as well. And then we've got the subheadings. So if you want to focus your search in terms of this aspect, this age group, so for example, with physiology or psychology, you can include all subheadings or defer to just one of those if you wish. Okay, so I'm going to go to the top of the screen and click add to search. And when I add to the search, you see in the top search box, I've got MH, so we know this is an exact mesh term. And I've got the plus sign to know that it's exploded, so it includes the other age group. So anyone over 65 is fine. They could be 66, they could be 76, they could be 86, or all would be relevant to this research question. And then click search here. So once I've done that, that will also be added to the search history. And one thing also to point out here now is the column on the left. So the filters are now appearing on the left-hand column. Now we're still in the midst of our search here, creating our search strategy. So we're not going to use these, but notice these now appear on the left-hand column. For those who work in England, again, this is what you'll see. I'm not yet sure what the HSC have decided to do, or in Scotland or in Wales, but I imagine it'll be very much like this as well. But for those of you who have not configured this and remain with the original display, you will see all filters appearing on screen, and then you can you view the filters on the right hand panel. So again, there may be a preference for seeing it in this fashion, which was the original classic approach to display them up front on the left hand column, and that's now been implemented for the new interface. So we've got these two sets. What I'm going to do is combine both S1, S2, use the Boolean OR. Okay, so groups them together in the top search box. I click search and we'll run that simultaneously. So we'll retrieve all records where aged is the subject heading and where aged or older, etc., elder are the keyword search terms. Okay, so combining the subject search with the free text search, and we have the set there. Okay, so we're in the millions at the moment, so a lot of results. I'll say more about the results in terms of viewing specific sets as well. And by sets, I mean lines of searches. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the intervention for PICO. So that's the flu vaccine. So for this, I am going to use the precision operator, so the proximity operator near. So I'm going to put in parentheses, so flu or influenza. Okay, insert parentheses or brackets, whichever you prefer to call them, and then sorry, not or, but then near N3 vaccine, and I will also truncate vaccine because it could be vaccines, vaccinations, vaccinated, etc. So I will truncate that. Okay, so it could be flu vaccine, could be flu vaccinations, or it could be influenza vaccine or influenza vaccinations, or vaccinated against influenza, vaccinated against flu, and so on. So again, I will search for these terms within the title abstract. Okay, so we've got that now, and of course we're going to run the equivalent search for the mesh term. So again, based on what we saw in the slide deck, I'll put flu vaccine here for now. Select suggested terms, click suggest terms, and in a moment you should see the appropriate mesh term that we should be using for this search, which of course is influenza vaccines. So I can click on this term. You can see the scope, know what it's used for. So if you search for any of these terms within the index, you'll be mapped to this term, influenza vaccines. You'll see the tree, so it comes under complex mixtures, biological products, vaccines, viral vaccines, and so on. And then you can see it's a single term. So there are no narrow terms that we'll select from this list. There are subheadings that we can select, of course. For example, administration of dosage, adverse effects, if we wanted to focus on those aspects for this subject heading. But we'll leave it blank for now, as it were. We keep it quite broad. Click Add to Search, and then retrieve all records indexed with that heading. And as you might guess, since it's the intervention, we're going to combine that with the keyword search for flu, influenza vaccines, etc. So S4, S5, and combine with OR, and run the search for these two. So this will be the second element of PICO, the intervention, and the final element we look at will be the comparison. Sorry, the outcome, not comparison, because there isn't one, as it were. Indirectly there is, because it's not no flu vaccine, as it were. So for that, we're going to approach it the same way. Do our keyword searching, our free text searching in the top search box. Again, for title abstract, so I'm going to put pneumonia, but I'm going to put in, truncate this, so it could be pneumonia or pneumonitis. I'm also going to put in pulmonary. Let's do this. Or lung, and then 3 words and 3 information. Okay. Okay, so I put information there for now. Okay. Again, I can edit these search strings if I feel like there's something I'm not quite right. I need to make changes to it, then I can do that. And then I can choose title abstract here, click search. So I will check the questions if there's any coming up at the moment. Yes. Okay, some couple of questions there. I'll get back to you as we near the end of the session. So just bear with me. I've noted them in the chat, so we'll get to those. So we've done the title abstract search in relation to pneumonia, pneumonitis, etc. And now we'll look at the equivalent subject terms as well for the indexing. So what I'm going to do here is so I've been using suggested terms. You may have a preference to go in a different way. So for example, if we go to browse by, you'll see the reference to MEDLINE, Mesh 2026. Click on that link. It will take us to this page. I'll clear my screen here. I'll clear this and add pneumonia. Okay, pneumonia. No, I got that wrong, I think. Pneumonia. Okay. Okay, and then click search for this term. And you can see we've got pneumonia here. Okay, we can scroll down, see if there's anything else here that we should be using. So we'll go to this term, which is explore this by clicking on it. Again, you can see here infection of the lung, etc. And notice in the scope note, we've got pulmonary information indicated here, lung information as well. So again, it's going to be included essentially. So if I select pneumonia, okay, and then look at the tree view. So these are under respiratory tract diseases, and you'll see pneumonia is here. And we've also got bronchopneumonia and community-acquired pneumonia. So these will also be included with the explode option as well. And if we scroll down, if there's anything else we could be included here. So you've got respiratory tract diseases again there. Okay. So if there's anything else, so at the moment, well, we won't choose anything else for now. So we'll just jump to the top of the screen, add to search, click search and retrieve records index with those terms. So pneumonia and the other two as well. And of course, it is used for pulmonary lung information, etc. So we'll combine S7, S8 with OR and then search here. Now, you would have noticed, well, it's just loading the background, that the search history, of course, is displayed in reverse chronological order. So you may have seen this in the CNL session as well, and other EBSCO sessions. So you can resort the search strings in sequence. So if you click ID, it will show us the order S1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, so again, that's easier to look at, understand where you are, and of course, for reproducing the search, you probably would certainly have it displayed in this way. So again, we'll now look at combining those three elements. So the population group related to age 65, the combined title, abstract, and subject searching, the mesh term, and then the equivalent for the intervention, flu vaccine, and then pneumonia related terms, S9. So we've got three sets to combine. So we use the Boolean and here, and then those three sets will be noted in the top search box with the Boolean and click search here to retrieve records where they appear together. So if I scroll down now, you should see S10 in a moment appearing, and it has combined those three sets, and we've got almost 2,000 records. Okay. Now, of course, we can filter those records as well. So we may have a particular time frames, for example, maybe the last 10 years. So what we can do here, a couple of things we can do. We can choose from our filters. Maybe we want English language only, for example, and then the publication date, we can go for the past 10 years. There is a date range customization, so it means you can specify a year, so year to year, or month and year, or leave it open-ended as well. So again, you can do that. But I'm going to go for past 10 years here. There are the filters here. I mentioned the age group filter, but we've already searched for age and incorporate the mesh term as well. So again, we probably won't need to use this at this stage. And we'll apply here. And what you'll notice when I've applied filters, so I've applied language and the publication date, they will also be detailed in the search history. So now in S11, it's the same search string, those sets combined, but this time we have the evident application of filters for language and the publication date. So again, for reporting purposes, this is clearly indicated, and then we have the results there as well. Okay. I know it came up in the chat about the editing of search strings as well. So I want to just highlight this as well. So for example, if we look at S4 and look across to the right, you'll see the three columns there. So the pancake is the databases, so in MEDLINE, the save ribbons there, and then you have the kebab or tools menu. Click on those three dots and you'll see we got those elements. And if you click edit search details, go to edit search, and then this allows you to edit the search string. So for example, if we're at N3, it could be 4 words rather than 3 words or less, then we can change the number 3 to 4. So it'll be near 4 words or less. We can leave the field code the same, click update here, click continue, close this page, and then you'll see in the search history, it's been revised, been updated, refreshed. And if we resort again in the sequence, click ID. Okay, and then you'll see in a moment, let me do that again. We've now got, this was, let's see, S4 is changed to N4. Okay, and you'll notice we've gained a few more references here. So we had about, I think it was 1,800, I think it was. Oh, it was less than that, about 1,083, I think. So it looks like we've gained some more references here. Okay, so somebody may have remembered or recalled the actual number. I didn't, but I believe we've actually increased the number. So just by making that change, so you can edit the search string, and you can also edit combined sets as well. So for example, if S10 should have been or as opposed to and, then if you go into the tools menu again, click edit search, okay, and then edit search again, you would then enter, adjust the search string. But notice it does detail the dependent searches as well and spell out the actual terms that are part of this search as well. Okay, so you can update that from there. Again, we may come to the other questions toward the end of the session, as I still want to make sure I cover the other elements too. So I'm going to resort again and making sure that we're on track here with what we're covering in this session. So we've looked at how to combine in the search history. Okay, so we've seen that. Obviously on this search page, you'll notice also with the bulk actions, we have the option now to select individual sets, and you can download them, you can save them using the save ribbon, you can add them to a project, which is a custom folder, or delete as needed as well. So for example, initially, if I wanted to download the search as a Word document, for example, then I can select the sets, select download, and you can see you can download up to 500 lines. So with save search sets, it's limited to 200 currently, but for downloading, it can be up to 500. So you can select download here, and then it gives you the choice. By default, PDF, Word is there. CSV, if you prefer to have a table, which you can then edit in Excel, remove the columns, etc., to adjust your presentation for your paper, whatever it might be, and then you can download from here. So I just want to demonstrate, just show you this on screen. So I'm going to save this, and then when this comes up, I'll highlight this. I know we've had quite a lot of feedback about this. So again, there's probably more feedback and possibly future developments on this page as well. But this gives you the initial download with details of the search sets, the query, date run, the results given, the search mode expander, etc., and the database run on, etc. So it looks like this. Obviously, with the Word document, you might say it's more easy to edit, etc. And then you've got the CSV, which again means you can edit that in Excel. Okay, so this is just the. Sorry, this is the Word. Sorry, this is the PDF. I meant to go for the Word, but anyway, this is the Word, the PDF one. Okay, so other formats are there. So that's one way. There's also the option to save the search history as it is by clicking the Save ribbon. So again, when you do that, what you'll find is, did I click that twice? Okay. So I'm going to go into my save folder on the right to see if that was saved. So again, you go to the searches tab under the save folder, and yes, you can see it's saved now. So you can see the sets there are saved. Okay. Again. Okay. So again, you can save it in that fashion if you prefer. However, there's a new feature which is probably more appealing at this stage. If I go back to my search, and just to actually make before I do that, even I'll show you also you can save to a project. So it may be rather than save to the save folder where everything gets saved, that includes future searches, records, etc. It may be that at this stage you want to combine what results you'll save with the actual search history. So what you could do here is select the search history, click add to project. This will prompt you to sign in if you've not signed in already. I am now signed in. So I've got 11 items. These are the sets. These are the searches. So S1 to 11. And I can give it a name, a new project here. And I can fill in the search flu vaccine and pneumonia. Okay. Okay, pneumonia. Okay. You can see the character limit there. Plenty of space if you like. Due date, if it's a search or you need to get in or a certain date, then you can set that up. I'll go 24th of August. Add a description, so it could be who it's for. It could be department, could be just additional information you need to know about the search, and then create that. And then when you do that, you get confirmation on screen that that search has been added to the project. The project's been created and it's been added to that project. So if I go to my EBSCO area, which says Richard here, and it will give you your name essentially when you're signed into it, and then go to projects, you'll see that stored there. So it mirrors essentially what you see in the saved folder, but this time it's kind of differentiated because it means you've identified that this is on the flu vaccine pneumonia. Therefore, when you come to save other records, as we'll do in a moment, they will be grouped here as well. So it's a search string here. Okay, and of course you can go in and delete any searches as well from here if you wish to as well. There is the options to delete from here, so you can go in and select delete searches as needed. Okay, so if you need to tidy that up. So I just go back to my search, and before I get into save search sets, I'd also mentioned if we wanted to save records to be part of that project, so we're looking at them, then we can do that here from the results menu. So with the results menu, and also you can hide the search history, by the way. Click on the link and it'll collapse and be hidden in the background. I think I clicked it twice inadvertently there. So now I can focus on these search results. So what I can do here, I can save some records. Now, as I mentioned, if you're signed in and if I select these, I can now save up to 500. I can select up to 500. So previously only 50, you can still save 50 per page, but I can set 500. So I can download that quantity of records. I choose the format, so maybe it's in Word. I can choose a range, 1 to 500, or the next set, etc. So obviously with 1,200 records, I can save the first 500, then the next 500, then just 200 more. Okay, just with those clicks there. So I can say I can download these and again choose the appropriate format, Word, etc., and have access to those. So it's no longer limited to 50 as it was before. In addition to that, likewise, I can save up to 500. So again, I can go in here, select 500 and save, use the save ribbon, and these will be saved. So 500 records, items will be saved to the save folder, as it were. Okay. But what I wanted to highlight here was the add to project. So instead of saving it to the save folder, I've already saved my search history in the project. So what I can do now is go again, select 500, add them to the project. So I can select the project here, flu vaccine pneumonia, add the first 500 as it were, add them now, and excuse that error message. It should be still saved. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but cancel this. And if I go to the project folder, then I believe they should still be saved there. So go to flu vaccine pneumonia, and unfortunately it didn't do that. I'm not sure why. And using a demonstration site here, I may have to report that. But the theory is that you should be able to save those 500 records to the project directly, as opposed to the save folder. Okay. Likewise with saving, with sharing, again, if you've got, if you select 500, then you can also share 500 records from the result list. Again, you see the ranges. Google Drive, OneDrive is available for this. Or if you prefer, you can email that quantity of data and also determine the preferred display. Now with 500, you might want to stick with a brief citation, possibly include the abstract. You can go for detailed citation now, which does allow you to choose these fields as well, or remove some that may not be necessary essential. So you can go in, add the abstract, add the ISSN, for example, PubMed ID, and then email with that format, with that citation. Again, up to 500 records. And then likewise, if you go to the Cite tool, you can also cite and export up to 500 records. You can see you've got 500 items. Choose the reference style, which will be defaulted to your preferred one. So in the NHS England, it's Harvard. If you're another institution, if you're using APS like Info, for example, maybe APA 7th edition, or it could be Chicago. If you've not yet configured that in EBSCO Experience Manager, then you can still choose the preferred style. Again, the range is present there. Copy all to the clipboard, or if you prefer, and you want to export these records in RIS format, you have the option there, or for RefWorks or EndNote. So again, the bottom line is the functionality has been there for 50 records or less. Now it's 500. Okay, so again, a big increase, a tenfold increase in using these tools. Of course, you can still export from this page as well, by the way. So you have the export option up to 25,000 records. So with 1200, you may simply want to click export and then generate a link to these records. So these 1200 records in this case, and choose RIS format or BibTeX if you prefer, or CSV, or even XML. And then you'd send this, and then you would receive confirmation on screen that a link to download that metadata will arrive in your inbox. Okay, and you have 7 days to retrieve that. Okay, so again, if you don't have EBSCO single sign-on and you need to sign into a personal user account and you need to advise users the same, you will be prompted to do that. Okay, so finally then, with that in view, I'll go back to my search history and just highlight search set. So now with our search displayed, we've completed the search here. Okay, so rather than save it with the save ribbon, rather than download it, what we can also do is click Save Search Set. So again, if you click Save Search Set, you can name the search. So again, I'm going to call it flu, influenza vaccine this time. Vaccine, I'll put and pneumonia. Okay, I can add optional free text in this description if I need to, but I can click Save this. Okay, it's saved. Confirmation on the top of the screen. If I jump to the top, go to my save folder under Richard here, so the EBSCO area, go to saved, and you may have caught a glimpse of this when we're looking at various records and so on and information here. So we've got search sets, and you'll see now I've got another search set. Now, one thing you can do with these search sets is sort them newest, oldest, and also alphabetically as well if you prefer. So obviously if you have numerous searches that you're saving, numerous search sets, then you can sort them alphabetically and have your own naming convention, by the way, as well. So what you can do here is click through to that search set and you'll see it gives me, interesting. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. This one here, that is a filter that I've designed, worked on. So this one here, influenza vaccine, and you can see the sequence now. One thing, of course, it still displays in reverse chronological order, but you can easily resort that. And you could go in this, you can still download this search set, by the way, into your preferred format, Word, PDF, etc. And you can also edit the search strings as needed. You can go in and still edit the search details. I mean, not, you can see the search details. Actually, you can't re-edit, sorry. But yeah. So basically, you can just view the details of the search, and then you can add to the project if you need to. But the key thing really is that it's saving the search intact in its entirety. It'll be up to 200 lines, so it'll be S1 to S200 at the moment. And then what you can do is rerun the search set. If I click rerun the search set here, it'll rerun for you on this database. And I am going to refer to a question that was raised. When you rerun the search set, it will rerun on the database it was run on. So at the moment, it's not possible to rerun it on a database other than the one it was originally run on. So if you've run it on MEDLINE and you're in CINEL, it will run the original MEDLINE search. Okay, still. So again, just to bear that in mind at the moment. So again, you can see the entire search history is replicated on screen as it was. Okay. Another thing while we're here, before we go back to the PowerPoint to begin to wrap up, is the results. As you see, each of these results sets, either in the millions or tens of thousands, etc., or 1,000 plus, are hyperlinked, which means that you can view any result set here. So for example, if I go to S10, just to review before we apply the filters, that set, if I click on the link, it will display that result set below in the result list. So I can focus on that result set. Okay. So it wasn't where I finished because I did apply filters, but I want to see what was there before. Okay. So I can go through this list, but importantly, it doesn't add a duplicate set here. Okay, so I'm still seeing the 11 sets with the 1,200 records, which we finished with. I've jumped to S10. I could do the same for S6. Look at the 42,000 records there. Not that I'm going to go through all those. But again, no additional set is added to the search history. So it keeps that, the integral search set there as well. And then I can just click on the final search set number, the results number, to go back to the original set of results as well. So it does that. Okay, I think there's a few questions that I might need to pick up on. So what I do now is just jump back to in fact, let me stay on this screen while I'm doing that, I think, in case I need to refer to the screen. So yeah, Alfred asked at the beginning, how do I repeat exact search using a different database from MEDLINE to CINAHL? So essentially at the moment, you would need to download the search history to replicate that, essentially. You cannot rerun the search on a different database at the moment. So again, I'll probably make that clearer in a document I send out to you when I respond to all these questions. So from Cecilia, how do I edit a line once I run a search? I'm to click on the three dots and nothing happens. So that may be a query that we need to follow up. So again, the three dots, which is the tools menu next to a line of a search, should open up the menu. So if I show you on screen again, to edit the search details, add to search, so add to project or delete. So again, you have those three options. So that should be displayed from within the search history when you see the three dots. Okay. So we need to report that if it's an issue. If you work in the NHS in England, you have the service desk. So any queries like this, you should submit through the service desk initially, and they can escalate to us as needed. From Bryony, can you clarify if using star within a phrase search means you don't get plural results, flu vaccine? So yeah, the asterisk is not used for truncation. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Yeah, if you put flu vaccine and it's truncated with the asterisk, yeah, quotation marks, it should bring back flu vaccines. I need to check on that. I can forward you the documentation on that as well. Yeah, so the hash wildcard is for alternate spelling. Okay, the asterisk is for truncating terms. So the truncated term, so for example, physio for physiotherapist, etc. You truncate it in a certain way to get physiotherapy, and so on. If you have terms like cognitive behavioral therapy, if you put cognitive asterisk therapy, it would also pick up cognitive therapy and cognitive behavior therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy. So it seems like maybe there's an issue in Chrome. I know we've been updating Chrome quite regularly recently. I'm using Chrome now and it's working. So and Cecilia's in Edge having the problem. So okay, we need to report on those. And yes, you can download, or can you download it in RIS format? So you'd use the direct export option to download the results in RIS format. So again, just while we're on screen here, if I look at the result list, if I go to the site tool, if I just select these records, go to the site tool, then go to export citation here, and you can export in RIS format as you see here. Okay, you can do the same for individual records as well, by the way. Whenever you see the site tool, it gives you the option for individual records where it says export citation. Okay, so RIS format here. Okay, so those options there. So beside the export tool linking, which would allow you to do a direct export, and then you can select RIS from that menu as well. Okay. Yes, so Andrea asks, is the search history visibility below the search box in the middle a feature that admins will have to switch on themselves in Experience Manager? Yes. So for the NHS in England and for other NHS organisations, I think for Scotland and Wales also, that has been already enabled by default. So for certain consortia, it has been enabled by default when that was launched last October. For others, we have not mandated that. So it is, as Andrew correctly notes, it is something that can be switched on in EBSCO Experience Manager. So yeah, so my search history still shows. So yeah, so let me just come out of this screen here. So if you don't see the search history displayed in this fashion in the middle of the screen, then what you will have, if I go to my EBSCO area again, is recent activity, and the search history is also displayed there. Okay, so again, you can still get access to it there, but it doesn't have the save search functionality. So again, that is something which we can send information on, okay, about configuring that. And then appreciate those who can still stay. I know we're getting behind the session now, but again, I'll try to answer these questions. So from Sadie here, can you go over how to export all the results in RIS format? I've tried to export some results, but it only appears to let me download 50, and there's no drop-down menu come out to select all results. It only goes up to 50. So yeah, so you will need to be signed in. If you want to download more than 50 records, you need to be signed into the MyEBSCO folder. Okay, so again, if I go back, click new search here. In fact, let me go to, I'll go back to my search history. Actually, let me go back and rerun something here quickly. I go in, let's go the save folder. Let me rerun the search set for you. So search set again. So if I go to this set again, and I'll rerun this. And so what you'll see, if you're signed in, I just hide the, actually I should hide the search history behind the scenes there, and then go to the results themselves. Just hide that. So what you'll see here, this drop down menu gives me 1 to 50, but 500. So 500 is showing because I'm signed in up here. Okay. If I'm to sign out here, okay, and if I just do another search quickly here, if I just put in, let's go for, let's just put in flu vaccine again. Okay, just for the sake of time. When I come to that result list, what it will show is only 50, this. Okay, so that number 500 is dependent on you signing into as a personal user. So you can see it says MyEBSCO. If I don't have an account, I have to create one. If I do have an account, I would need to sign in here. Okay, go through the process, sign in, and then once I look at those results once more, you'll see it now has changed to show me 500. Okay, so again, that depends on that. Okay, so yeah, so I know Karen has also mentioned about the search history visibility, so I can send more information on that. Yep, Sadie said, yes, you can see it now. Yes, so going back to configuring the search history, I don't think, have I got it open? Actually, I've got it open. I'm able to just, I'll quickly show you this if you can stay on board. So I've got EBSCO Experience Manager open here. So I'm logged in, I'll just have to go back in again. So this is EBSCO Experience Manager. If I click Launch App here, I'll just go into my own account here, just quickly. You won't see this normally. And this is my account. And so if you want to enable the search history, you need to go to Researcher, go to the search option, choose the profile. So I've got multiple profiles here. So for example, the one I've been using today is the medical databases profile because I'm using MEDLINE. So this is my profile. So again, you may have an EBSCOhost profile. You may have multiple profiles. So depending on which one you want to, you may have a profile, for example, for MEDLINE, and you need to be in that profile to adjust it. So what I would do here, go to the right profile, scroll down, and then you'll see there are two areas for the search history to be displayed. Make sure is the default search landing page that needs to be advanced. It's either advanced or standard. Standard is the basic search screen. So first of all, you need to switch to advanced. Okay, once that's on, and it may be on already, you then need to go into the advanced search results page to also have advanced on then. And there is information on here in EBSCO Connect, which will also give you more information about the advanced search, about the configuration. So what I'll do here, as we're on this page, I'll also paste it into the chat as well for those who need it. Okay, so that will give you the instructions. So you can try that yourself. It's fairly straightforward. It just really requires identifying the appropriate profile and choosing advanced in both those areas. Okay, so if you have any issues with that, any problems doing it, it doesn't work, let us know. But with EBSCO Experience Manager, it is done in real time. So essentially, once you've made that change on your live profile, it should be reflected in it. Okay, very quickly, unlike EBSCO Admin. So I will stop sharing here and I'll go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so we had quite a detailed live demonstration. Again, with the search history, you can see the outline here displayed. Again, once you've enabled that in EBSCO Experience Manager, you should see this, and this has a breakdown of the various components of this search that we were running, as you can see there. And then ultimately, the filters are also recorded as well. So your applied language, publication date, and others, they will also be identified in the search history. And then if you want to save elements of the search, you can click the Save ribbon, by the way, as well. So either you can save the complete search by using the Save ribbon, you can download the search, add it to a project, or more likely, save it as a search set and rerun that as needed. So there's also the delete option as well, so you can clear the screen with a bulk delete option. And then also, again, I showed you the site tool. Again, you can do this individually or collectively with the result list as well. And for those who are new to using MEDLINE EBSCOhost, we have got the syntax help sheet here. So I've gone using XB Philco, for example, use of the near operator, as it were. So the precision operator. So again, there are some examples of how to use those features for MEDLINE EBSCOhost. And in terms of further train support, we have recordings. Okay, so again, there are more recordings. These will be updated to reflect the changes. EBSCO Connect course is there. And if you go in through to EBSCO Connect, just go, if you click the sign in option on the top of the screen, it will give you access to other areas. And you can click through EBSCO Academy site, which gives you more videos, access to learning courses, and also upcoming training as well. We have the EBSCO Healthcare Training Resource Portal, by the way. So again, this is where you'll find a link to the YouTube channel if you don't know the URL. And also upcoming train sessions as well. So I'm starting to roll out more train sessions for August, featuring the new features, of course, and also additional help sheets under support information as well. So I've included some of the key links, including the new one on how to use search sets. Some of you will probably have not seen that before. So again, there's more information from that help sheet, and our document support team are updating EBSCO Connect to reflect the changes. Thank you.